The most important journey a human being can take is not to find the truth, but to unlearn the lies. For decades, I was a collector of beautiful cages. I collected philosophies, methods, and beliefs, hoping one of them would set me free. The man who finally handed me the key was the one who told me that all cages, no matter how beautiful, are still cages. If you are tired of searching, tired of following, and have the courage to question everything you've been taught, you are on the verge of a profound discovery. Subscribe, and let us explore the freedom that lies beyond the known. Part 1: The Weight of the Answer, the Illusion of the Path. Look at this. A book. A collection of words, of ideas, of conclusions reached by another human being. For most of my life, books like this were my refuge. My library was a fortress, each book a brick in a wall I was building against the terrifying uncertainty of life. I was a seeker. I was on a path. I devoured the teachings of the mystics, the saints, and the philosophers. I learned the meditation techniques of the Buddhists, the esoteric philosophies of the Gnostics, the disciplined practices of the Stoics. I collected these systems like a tourist collects souvenirs, each one a proof that I was on the journey, that I was doing the work. And yet, after all that seeking, after all that collecting, a profound and honest look at myself revealed a shocking truth. I was not free. I was burdened. I was weighed down by the sheer volume of knowledge I had accumulated. My mind was a crowded room, filled with the voices of 1,000 different teachers, all contradicting each other, all offering a different map to the same treasure. I was so busy studying the maps that I had completely forgotten to look at the territory, the living, breathing reality of my own life right here, right now. This is the first and most foundational truth that a spiritually awake person must, with great courage, let go of, the truth of the path. It is the belief that there is a prefabricated system, a method, a guru, a religion, or a philosophy that can lead you, step by step, to truth, to God, to enlightenment. This is the central promise of nearly every spiritual tradition on earth. And, according to the relentlessly clear-sighted philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti, it is the fundamental lie that keeps humanity in bondage. Krishnamurti's most famous and explosive statement, delivered when he was a young man being groomed to be a world messiah, was this: "Truth is a pathless land." Think about the devastating simplicity of that statement. It means you cannot approach truth through any organization, any creed, any dogma, any priest, or any ritual. You cannot find it in a book, including the one I am holding. A truth that is found through a path is not truth, it is a second-hand conclusion, a dead thing. The truth, he insisted, is something that must be discovered, fresh, new, and alive, in every single moment, by you alone. A path, by its very nature, implies a fixed destination and a series of steps laid down by someone else. It is a product of the past. But truth is always alive, in the present. To follow a path is to be forever walking in someone else's footsteps, forever looking at the memory of their discovery, not your own. The systems, the methods, the 7 steps to enlightenment, they are all cages. They may be beautiful, intellectually stimulating cages, decorated with ancient wisdom and comforting promises. But they are still cages. They condition the mind, they limit its perception, they tell it what it should see. A spiritually awake person realizes that to see what is, the mind must be free from all conditioning. They silently, and often painfully, let go of the comfort of the path, and they step into the vast, terrifying, and ultimately liberating reality of the pathless land. Part 2: The Civil War Within, the Illusion of the Self. Once you have let go of the external path, you are inevitably forced to confront the internal one. This is the project of self-improvement, the subtle, internal war that most of us are waging, day in and day out. This is the second great truth that must be unlearned, the truth of the self. It is the belief that there is a permanent, fixed entity called me, the thinker, the observer, the controller, that is separate from my experiences, my thoughts, my anger, my fear, and that the job of this me is to analyze, control, and improve those experiences. This is the entire foundation of our psychology and most of our self-help industry. We are taught to declare war on the parts of ourselves we don't like. I must control my anger. I must overcome my fear. I must quiet my noisy mind. In this battle, the I is always the hero, the valiant knight, and the anger or the fear is the dragon that must be slain. We live in a state of perpetual inner conflict, a civil war between the observer and the observed, the part of us that is judging and the part that is being judged. We spend our entire lives trying to become better, trying to achieve an ideal version of ourselves. But Krishnamurti asks a question that shatters this entire structure. He asks, is the observer any different from the thing he is observing? When you say, I am observing my anger, is the I that is observing separate from the anger itself? Or is the observer simply another thought, a trick of the mind that has created this division in order to feel a sense of control? What if the thinker is the thought? What if the one who is experiencing fear is the fear? This is a radical, mind-bending shift in perception. The observer is the observed. This means that the moment you create a division between me and my anger, you have created a conflict that can never be resolved. The me that is trying to control the anger is itself a product of past conditioning, fear, and thought. It is part of the problem, not the solution. So what is the alternative? Krishnamurti's answer is choiceless awareness. It is the act of observing the anger, the fear, the jealousy, without any desire to change it, to judge it, to suppress it, or to escape from it. You simply watch it, with your total, undivided attention. What happens when you do this? When you look at your anger without the observer who says, this is bad, I should not be angry, the division collapses. You are no longer an angry person, you are simply the living energy of anger itself. And in this unified state of seeing, the energy of anger reveals its whole story and then, without any effort on your part, it transforms. The energy that was fueling the conflict is liberated. This is the miracle. True change does not come from the heroic effort of the ego trying to improve itself. True change, true freedom, comes from the simple, silent, and total perception of what is, without the division. Created by the self. A spiritually awake person silently lets go of the entire project of self-improvement. They stop fighting the war, and in that surrender, they find a peace that no battle could ever win. Part 3, The Prison of the Past, the Illusion of Identity. Once we begin to see through the illusion of the separate self that is at war with itself, we are led to an even more profound inquiry. What is this self, this me, actually made of? If you look closely, you will see that it is made of memory. It is a bundle of experiences, of hurts, of pleasures, of conclusions, of ideas, all gathered from the past. Your identity is a story that you have constructed from the raw material of yesterday. When you say, I am a kind person, you are referring to past actions you have labeled as kind. When you say, I am not good at public speaking, you are referring to a past experience of failure or fear. We are, in essence, living as ghosts of our own past. This is the third great truth that a spiritually awake person unlearns, the truth of identity. It is the belief that, I am my story. We cling to this story because it gives us a sense of continuity and security. But it is also a prison. Because we identify with the past, we are doomed to repeat it. We react to the fresh new reality of the present moment not as it is, but through the distorted, colored screen of our past experiences. If you were hurt in a past relationship, you will meet a new person through the screen of that hurt, projecting your old fears and expectations onto them. If you had a past business failure, you will approach a new opportunity through the screen of that failure, crippled by the memory of what went wrong. We are not free to see what is new. We are only ever seeing a reflection of what is old. Krishnamurti called this vast repository of our past experiences, the known. And his most radical invitation was for us to achieve freedom from the known. What does this mean? It means the capacity to die to yesterday, to all of your memories, your conclusions, your hurts, and your achievements, so that you can meet this moment with a mind that is fresh, new, and innocent. It is an incredibly demanding proposition. It does not mean developing amnesia. You still remember your name and how to drive your car, that is factual memory. He is talking about psychological memory, the accumulation of hurts, pleasures, and ideas that form the ego. To be free from this is to allow the me, the story, to die from moment to moment. Think of a river. Is the river you see now the same river you saw a second ago? No. The water is constantly new, constantly flowing. The mind of an awakened person is like that river. It is in a constant state of flux, of becoming and dying. The mind of a person trapped in their identity is like a block of ice, a frozen, static, and brittle representation of what the river once was. To let go of your identity is to allow the ice to melt. It is to embrace the terrifying, liberating truth that you are not a fixed entity. You are a process. You are a flow. It is to stop defining yourself by the story of who you have been, and to open yourself to the infinite mystery of who you are, right now, in this moment beyond all stories. Part 4. The furniture of the mind, the illusion of knowledge. This imprisonment in the past, in the story of me, is built and reinforced by another idol we worship, knowledge. This is the fourth great truth that must be unlearned. It is the belief that the accumulation of knowledge, of ideas, of concepts, is the path to wisdom and freedom. Our entire education system is built on this premise. From a young age, we are taught to memorize, to analyze, to accumulate information. We are rewarded for having the right answers, for being able to quote the experts, for having a mind that is full of information. We come to believe that a person who has read many books and can articulate complex ideas is a wise person. But Krishnamurti makes a devastating distinction between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is always of the past. It is the collection of conclusions, experiences, and memories of humanity. It is essential for functioning in the practical world. You need knowledge to be a surgeon, an engineer, or a computer programmer. Knowledge is a tool for dealing with the world of things. But when we try to use that same tool to understand the deep, living, psychological realities of our own being, love, fear, death, freedom, it fails completely. In fact, it becomes an obstacle. A mind that is full of knowledge, a mind that is full of other people's conclusions and ideas, is not a free mind. It is a second-hand mind. It is like a room so cluttered with antique furniture that there is no space to move, no space to live. You can describe the chemical composition of water with great scientific knowledge, but that knowledge will never quench your thirst. You can read 1,000 books about love, but that knowledge will never give you the capacity to actually love. Wisdom is not the accumulation of ideas, it is the direct, unmediated perception of reality in the present moment. And for that direct perception to occur, the mind must be empty of the clutter of the known. This is a profoundly challenging idea for us, as we have been so deeply conditioned to value the full mind. We are proud of our opinions, our beliefs, our philosophies. We use them to define ourselves and to navigate the world. But Krishnamurti points out that a belief is, by its very nature, a wall. It is a conclusion you have come to in the past, and it prevents you from seeing the fresh, living reality of the present. If you have a belief that all politicians are corrupt, you will never be able to meet a politician with an open mind. You will only ever see your own pre-existing conclusion. Your belief, your knowledge, has blinded you. To be spiritually awake is to cultivate a mind that is not full, but empty. Empty in the sense of being free from conclusions, free from beliefs, free from the prejudice of past knowledge. This is what the Zen Buddhists call beginner's mind. It is the capacity to look at a flower, at your own anger, at another human being, as if for the first time, without the screen of your accumulated ideas and judgments. It is to let go of the security of knowing, and to embrace the profound, creative intelligence of I don't know. This emptiness is not a void, it is a space of infinite potential, a space in which true learning, true discovery, can finally take place. A spiritually awake person understands that the words on the page are just pointers, a finger pointing at the moon. They silently let go of their obsession with the finger, and they look at the moon. Part 5, The Trap of Becoming, the Illusion of Psychological Time. This brings us to the fifth truth, to be unlearned, which is perhaps the most subtle and deeply embedded illusion of all. It is the belief in psychological time. It is the idea that we can achieve a psychological or spiritual transformation through the process of time. We think, I am angry now, but through practice, over time, I will become a peaceful person. Or, I am confused today, but if I meditate for 10 years, I will eventually become enlightened. We live in a state of perpetual becoming. We are always on a journey from what is to what should be. This process of becoming is the very movement of the ego, of the self. The me is a creature of time. It exists only by projecting itself out of the insufficient present and into a more ideal future. This creates a constant, low-grade sense of dissatisfaction with the present moment. The now is never enough. It is merely a stepping stone to a better future. This, Krishnamurti insists, is a psychological trap that keeps us forever running, forever seeking, and forever missing the only reality there is, the present moment. He makes a critical distinction between chronological time and psychological time. Chronological time, the time of the clock, is a practical necessity. You need it to make an appointment, to catch a train, to bake a cake. But psychological time, the idea of a psychological past and a psychological future, is a complete illusion created by thought. And it is the source of our deepest suffering. Fear is the projection of thought into the future. Regret is the projection of thought into the past. The entire structure of our anxiety is built on this illusory foundation of psychological time. Freedom, Krishnamurti states, is not found at the end of a long process of becoming. Freedom is a radical mutation that can only happen now. It is the complete cessation of the movement of becoming. It is the realization that you cannot become peaceful. You can only be peaceful, right now, by seeing the totality of your anger in this moment. The very desire to become peaceful is a form of resistance to the present reality of your anger, and that resistance is what creates the conflict and perpetuates the suffering. To be spiritually awake is to step out of the stream of psychological time altogether. It is to realize that there is only this moment. There is no psychological tomorrow in which you will be saved or enlightened. The only point of power, the only point of transformation, is now. This requires a quality of attention that is incredibly intense and immediate. It is to look at your greed, your fear, your loneliness, completely, in this instant, without the hope that it will be gone tomorrow. When you can look with that quality of attention, without the movement of thought which is time, the thing you are looking at undergoes a fundamental transformation. This is the most demanding of all his teachings. It pulls the rug out from under our entire spiritual project. It tells us to stop striving, to stop becoming, to stop hoping for a future salvation. It asks us to bring our entire, undivided attention to the living reality of this very moment, however messy or uncomfortable it may be. A spiritually awake person silently lets go of the hope for a future transformation. They understand that freedom is not at the end of the road. Freedom is the road itself, when it is walked with a mind that is completely and totally present. Part 6. The empty chair of the guru, the illusion of authority, this radical unlearning process, this letting go of paths, selves, knowledge and time, inevitably leads us to the final and perhaps most culturally ingrained illusion. It is the fifth great truth that must be dismantled, the truth of authority. It is the belief that another person, a guru, a priest, a master, an expert, even a philosopher like Krishnamurti himself, can give you the truth, can show you the way, or can be a mediator between you and reality. This is the foundation of almost all our religions and spiritual organizations. We are taught to look for a guide, a savior, a teacher who is more enlightened than we are, and to follow their system, their instructions, their example. This impulse comes from a place of deep insecurity. Because we feel lost, confused, and inadequate, we want someone else to take responsibility for our own liberation. We want to be told what to do. We want the comfort of a pre-approved path and the security of a leader who has all the answers. It is the voice of the inner child, looking for a perfect parent to make everything okay. But Krishnamurti points out, with relentless and often uncomfortable clarity, that the moment you follow another, you have ceased to follow the truth. The moment you become a disciple, you have destroyed not only the teacher, but yourself. Why? Because the very act of following creates a division and a hierarchy. It places truth out there, in the possession of another. It immediately creates a state of conformity and imitation. You try to be like the teacher. You practice their methods. You adopt their vocabulary. You are shaping your mind, your behavior, according to a pattern. And a mind that is conforming to a pattern is, by definition, not a free mind. It is a second-hand mind. You may become a brilliant imitation, a perfect copy, but you will never have the direct, first-hand discovery of what is true. A spiritually awake person understands that there can be no authority in the realm of the spirit. There can be teachers who point, who question, who challenge. There can be friends who inquire alongside you. But there can be no one who gives you the answer. The moment you accept an answer from another, you have stopped inquiring for yourself. You have substituted their knowledge for your own direct perception. This is why Krishnamurti consistently, throughout his entire life, rejected the role of the guru. He would tell his audiences, "I am not your teacher. Your teacher is your own life, your own mind, your own heart. You have to be a light unto yourself." To let go of authority is a profoundly adult act. It is the moment you fully reclaim your own spiritual sovereignty. It is the moment you stop looking for answers outside of yourself and turn your full, undivided attention to the only sacred text that matters, the living reality of your own consciousness, moment by moment. It is terrifying, because you can no longer lean on the comfort of a system or the certainty of a leader. You are left alone with yourself. But it is in this aloneness, which is not loneliness, but a state of sovereign wholeness, that true inquiry can finally begin. You let go of the hand of the guide, and you learn to walk on your own 2 feet, through the pathless land of your own being. Part 7. The nature of true revolution. So we have arrived at this place of radical emptiness. We have let go of the path, of the self, of knowledge, of time, and of authority. The mind, stripped of all its comforting furniture, its cherished beliefs, and its projects of becoming, is now naked. This can feel like a state of nihilism, of meaninglessness. If there is no path, no goal, no self to improve, what is left? What is the point? But this is not an end. This is the true beginning. This is the first step, that Krishnamurti said is also the last step. The point is not to cultivate a state of blank emptiness. The point is that only a mind that has been emptied of the known has the space to see what is new, what is true. This emptying is not a passive, depressive state. It is an act of supreme intelligence and intense energy. It is the act of bringing your total, undivided attention to the present moment, without the screen of the past. This quality of attention is, in itself, the revolution. When you can look at that tree outside my window without the word tree, without all your botanical knowledge about it, without all your past memories of trees, what do you see? You see a living, vibrant, mysterious reality that is far beyond your concepts. You see it for the first time. This is the nature of true meditation. It is not about chanting a mantra or following your breath to achieve a state of peace. True meditation is the act of seeing what is, completely. This quality of attention is what transforms our relationships. When you can listen to another person, your partner, your child, your enemy, without the screen of your past judgments, your opinions, and your conclusions about them, you are actually listening for the first time. You are creating a space in which a real, authentic connection can happen, beyond the images you have of each other. When you can observe your own fear without the word fear, without the story of me who is afraid, you see it not as a threat, but simply as a flow of energy, a sensation in the body. And in that choiceless observation, the energy is liberated from the story, and it transforms. This is not a practice for a weekend retreat. This is the art of living. Every moment of your life becomes the field of inquiry. Washing the dishes, driving to work, having a conversation. These are all opportunities to observe the movement of your own mind, to see the ways in which you are trapped in the known, and to come back, again and again, to the fresh, living reality of the present moment. It is the most demanding and the most rewarding discipline imaginable. Part 8. A light unto yourself. What is the consequence of living in this way? What happens to a human being who has had the courage to unlearn these foundational truths? The result is not a person who is perfect or problem-free. It is a person who is free. Free from the inner conflict that tortures most of humanity. Free from the burden of the past and the anxiety of the future. Free from the fear of what others think. Free from the endless, exhausting search for security in a universe that is fundamentally insecure and ever-changing. This freedom expresses itself as a new kind of intelligence. Not the intelligence of a well-stocked memory, but the intelligence of a mind that is supple, quiet, and intensely perceptive. It is the intelligence that knows when to act and when to be still. It is the intelligence that can respond to the challenges of life from a place of clarity and wholeness, rather than from a place of fragmented, conditioned reaction. This freedom also manifests as love. But not love as we usually understand it, not as attachment, not as dependency, not as a transaction. Love, in this context, is the natural state of a mind that is no longer divided against itself and against the world. When the illusion of the separate self dissolves, what remains is a profound sense of communion with all of life. Compassion is not something you have to practice, it is the spontaneous and inevitable expression of seeing that the other is not separate from you. You cannot harm another without harming yourself. You cannot help another without helping yourself. This is not a moral principle, it is a perceptual fact. A person who is living in this way becomes, in Krishnamurti's phrase, a light unto themselves. They are no longer dependent on any external source for their truth, their security, or their well-being. They have found the source within themselves. This does not make them aloof or disconnected from the world. On the contrary, it allows them to engage with the world's immense suffering with a heart that is truly open and a mind that is truly clear, because they are no longer adding to the suffering through their own inner conflict, fear, and division. They become a small, quiet point of sanity in a deeply insane world. Part 9. The ultimate question. So we have explored these 5 great illusions, these truths that we are taught to believe, which form the bars of our psychological cage. The truth of the path, the self, knowledge, time, and authority. To see these as illusions, not just intellectually but with your entire being, is to stand at a profound crossroads. You can continue to live within the comfort and security of the known, to walk the well-trodden paths, to seek the reassurance of experts, to continue the project of improving a self that does not exist. This is the choice that most of humanity makes. It is a life of quiet desperation, a life of second-hand living. Or, you can choose the other way. You can choose the pathless land. You can choose the terrifying and exhilarating freedom of not knowing. You can choose to become your own teacher and your own disciple. You can choose to turn away from all the answers that have been offered to you and begin to ask your own fundamental questions, with a mind that is willing to see the truth, no matter how much it shatters your cherished beliefs and comforts. This is the ultimate invitation that a philosopher like Krishnamurti offers. He is not giving you a new set of beliefs to replace the old ones. He is not offering you a new cage. He is pointing to the door of the cage you are already in and is asking you, do you have the courage to walk out? No one can walk out for you. No one can describe to you what it is like on the other side. Its beauty, its terror, its aliveness, must be discovered directly. This is not a journey for the faint of heart. It requires a quality of passion, of honesty, of ruthless self-inquiry that is rare. You must be willing to stand alone. You must be willing to be in a state of constant revolution, a state of dying to everything you thought you knew, every single day. But what is the alternative? To live and die within the confines of our own conditioning, to be a prisoner of our own past, is the greatest tragedy a human being can endure. Part 10. The first step is the last step in the end. This entire vast and complex exploration of unlearning comes down to something incredibly simple. It comes down to this moment. This very moment, as you are sitting there watching this. The freedom that Krishnamurti spoke of is not in some distant future, at the end of a long and arduous path of self-denial and practice. That is the illusion of time. The freedom is here, now, in the capacity to see what is, without the distortion of the past. The first step is the last step. The moment you see, with your entire being, that the thinker is the thought, that the observer is the observed, that division is the source of all conflict, in that very moment of seeing, you are free. The seeing is the action. The seeing is the transformation. You don't have to do anything about it. So, the invitation is not to start your journey tomorrow. The invitation is to look, now. Look at the movement of your own mind. Watch how it clings to its beliefs, how it defends its identity, how it is constantly seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Watch it without judgment, without condemnation, as you would watch a fascinating, natural phenomenon. In this choiceless, passionate, and total attention, the chains of the known, which are woven from the threads of thought and time, simply fall away. And what is left? What is there when the mind is quiet, when the self is absent, when there is no longer a search? Krishnamurti would never answer that question. To answer it would be to give you another concept, another piece of furniture for your mind. It is a question you must answer for yourself, by discovering a silence that is not empty, but is teeming with an intelligence, a love, and a creative energy that is beyond all measure. That is the pathless land. And its gateway is this very moment. The truth you are seeking is not at the end of a path. It is in the quality of your attention, right now. If you are ready to stop seeking and start seeing, the real work has begun. Subscribe. Stay close. Be a light unto yourself.